Good evening, friends. I don't know whether I can be very happy about today's webinar. It's not a very happy situation for the hospitality industry to be in. But one thing I've learned about the hospitality industry over the past 1 year, it's that you guys have tremendous force of resilience, and you seem to keep bouncing back from one crisis to another. And we have got actually veterans of crisis management on our panel. But it may sound a little anachronistic in this day to quote Karl Marx, but Karl Marx had said one very interesting thing, and that was that history repeats itself, first as a farce and then as a tragedy. I hope this time it is not a tragedy. We'll, be able to bounce back like the hospitality industry has always done. I've got great faith in it. Today, of course, the topic of the webinar is that the hospitality industry is back in the dark tunnel, and it seems to be getting darker and longer with each passing day. Let me introduce you to the panel. We have got Gauri Devidayal, who briefly, now she's back in the frame. So Gauri Devidayal is the co-founder of The Table. I think one of Mumbai's best known new restaurants. Of course, it's not any longer very new. She's right now in Delhi because of a pop-up she's doing at the Lodi. And all my friends are just raving about it. And people have attended it, say that it's been a great experience for Delhi. So Priyank, I don't know, of course, you're recovering from COVID. So we've got Priyank Sukhija here, who I used to call Nightlife Czar. But now he doesn't like to be called a nightlife czar. So I said, you're a restaurant and nightlife mogul. I've changed the term for you. But you remain, a very formidable name to reckon with. Priyank, welcome to the show. We have got AD Singh. AD, we, of course, all know him only mainly because of Olive Bar and Kitchen. But, among my favorites are Soda Bottle Opener Wala and Gappi Bhai. I think two fantastic restaurants, great ideas, and AD never seems to run out of ideas. I'm waiting for his next big idea. Hopefully, we'll be, Sputnik V will ensure that COVID is behind us. We have, of course,
Thank you so much.
Anurag Katriar. I don't know whether I see more press releases from him than I see Man Ki Baat from Narendra Modi. Poor Anurag has been fighting for 2 years, battling the system, and doing a lot of good work along the way. He and his organization, the National Restaurant Association of India, fed more than 6 million people at the height of the COVID crisis, the migrant crisis last year. So he was on the forefront, like all of you, all guys who are on the panel. But Anurag has led NRAI at its most difficult phase. I keep saying that NRAI is very similar to the National Rifle Association of America, the NRA, but unlike the NRAI is doing a hell of a lot of good work, and we are really proud of NRAI and of Anurag Katriar and Gauri and AD. You're on the board, aren't you?
Even Priyank is on the.
Oh, even Priyank. Good. So I've got the NRAI leadership with me. And we have got I always try to have a new face in the webinar circuit, but I'm sure every one of you knows Rajan Sethi, quietly and steadily expanding his restaurant empire. I met him about, I think, 8 years back, when he launched California Boulevard, and I was to be I was quite skeptical. We met at Rajouri Garden, and I thought, who in Rajouri Garden will go to a place called California Boulevard? He proved, like all journalists are always proved wrong. So Rajan proved me wrong, and today he owns not just California Boulevard, but several other franchises, restaurant franchises, including Ik Punjab, which is, and of course, Grand Trunk Road, both very research-based Indian cuisine restaurants. I think I see a lot of action happening from the side of Rajan. Rajan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Anurag, you being the leader of the pack, are, one neta I know personally, So, you tell me, what does the second round of COVID seem like to you? And Punjab, Maharashtra, where you are, Bombay, is particularly badly hit. You see a way out? What is happening?
I think, first of all, thank you for calling me leader. I don't know whether to take it as a compliment or not in nowadays world.
By the way, we have got Pushpa Bector with us.
Hi, Pushpa.
No, I'm sure all of you must be rushing to her in her spare time, asking for another rent revision. So,
Thankfully, she is one of the easier ones to deal with.
I mean, I'm surprised. I've heard such good things about Pushpa behind her back. So she must
Uh,
be a great leader. So Pushpa, she's the boss of retail and all the malls of DLF that you see, all the malls where we have a very good time. So Pushpa, thank you. Welcome to the show. That's Pushpa Bector.
Thank you so much.
Anurag, please continue. Yeah.
So I know, we are living in a very uncertain time. Just when it seemed that we are out of the pandemic and things were starting to look up better, and we were looking at requesting the governments to actually enhance the operating hours and, take away the capacity utilization restrictions. Here comes a second wave. And I don't know how to even describe what it means to us. The first round would have probably meant about 25 to 30% mortality amongst the restaurants, big and large, everybody together. And now I think if this lasts for, I reckon it will last for at least 4 to 8 weeks, minimum 8 weeks. So that may mean another many, downing the shutters, again, lakhs of people losing their jobs. It's like, क्या बोलूं, लगता है लाश की दोबारा मौत हो रही है टाइप की कोई कहानी है. मतलब, we were already dead, and now
Right.
we are facing another specter like this. And
Right.
it's there is nothing bright that we can look at right now. Let's be very honest. There is nothing which we can say is a bright spot amidst all this. I just hope, wish, and pray that this lockdown and the spread of COVID doesn't last very long. It ends very soon, because unless it ends, we cannot even start to breathe as restaurateurs.
Right.
I mean, people may talk about, media may talk about, oh, this delivery business, that delivery business. You know what? They are at best, and in best of the times, where augmentation tools to our revenues. They were
Right.
never the mainstreams, and they will never become the mainstream.
In
You
fact, Gauri,
cannot.
I'll just butt in and ask Gauri to jump into the conversation, because I saw her shaking her head when you mentioned, Anurag, when you mentioned about the delivery business. Gauri, what is, you're a single restaurant operator, and of course I don't know whether the table has multiplied. I hope it remains
Yes,
one
other brands.
single and exclusive brand. But what is your view about the delivery business? Is it working? Does it mean anything for people who are not in the restaurant business? What is the overview? Is it the big panacea that everyone was talking about?
So I think there's two aspects to it. I mean, obviously, if you're a pure cloud kitchen, your business model is very different than if you're a restaurant that's now trying to survive on delivery. So I think that, what Anurag was referring to is the latter, where it's just not viable. I mean, delivery cannot come anywhere close to making up for what you would do in a dine-in format. So, um, it's literally clutching at straws right now. Of course, in the cloud kitchen format, it's completely different. But I mean, as restaurateurs, our sort of primary focus is, of course, on restaurants.
Right. Yeah. So Priyank, you are part of a circuit, which I think has been worse hit than the other restaurants. The whole nightlife business. The bars business. Of course, you run restaurants, but you know the people running pubs and bars, or people running what we call nightclubs. Of course, I don't know, in the under the Delhi law there's no term called nightclubs. People like you who are basically cashing in on a young audience which comes to life, which awakens after 10 o'clock, and then goes out partying. How do you what is what is your outlook on what is there a way out really?
So I think surprisingly, what we saw in the months of December, January, February, and March when we were recovering, and I'm talking about I'm talking about Delhi because for me Mumbai didn't come back to normal even in the month of Feb and March. The extended hours only came in the month of March till Feb end. It was only the time was only till about 11. We had to shut down, so that was a big hit. Now I have been speaking to all the other restaurateurs, and I'm seeing numbers of my restaurants. Surprise! Theoretically, I think bars should have been hit worse. Bars, nightclubs,
Right.
pubs. But uh, I have restaurants and I have bars and pubs. Bars fared better than what do you call family dine-in restaurants,
But
which
why?
we offer.
I mean, is it because
I
younger people are more
I
reckless
think
or?
probably they're reckless. I think they're probably reckless, and that kind of worked for us. And I was having this conversation with a lot of other people in this industry, and this trend was particularly only seen in India. Whereas if you talk about other places, restaurants are still working well, and bars have not been able to do that. Do those have had that kind of
No,
recoveries?
I just the numbers from Britain are shocking. 2,800 pubs haven't opened, in Britain because they are not, of course, because they don't have outdoor seating arrangement. That is primarily the reason. But a lot of them have just shut down. The sort of
Yes,
talking about.
that has also been a very so when we talk about when we also look at the numbers what we did in the last 3-4 months, restaurants which had outdoor seating fared much better than the restaurants which did not have outdoor seating, and that has been a given. People are somehow more comfortable sitting in outdoors. I've had tables which were reserved, but we couldn't give them an outdoor seating and offered them an indoor seating. They did go back, so
Right.
that is a big factor.
Right. In fact,
That was in all cities for us.
right. That's true. I think people feel a little safer outdoors than naturally. Pushpa, which brings me to malls. How does this fear that people have of restaurants and in an air-conditioned environment generally? How do you deal with it in a mall situation?
So, 3 things happened. One is in Delhi, the law was started allowing outdoor seating. So in our properties, we could create outdoor seating, be it Horizon, Gurgaon, Cyber Hub, or in Delhi. Leave that as, we saw that the restaurant business, in spite of just table service, liquor in the tables, we noticed that the business had gone up to around almost 80%. Even at Cyber Hub, which was not supported by the office goers coming back, we noticed that the sales had come up to around a decent 70 to 75% for almost 60-70% of the brands. Not all of them. I would say 60-70% of the brands.
Pushpa, I'll just I'll just ask you one supplementary question. How many, what was the office catchment crowd in Cyber Hub, and what is the percentage of those people who have come back or who are working from offices?
Offices is negligible at this point in time. I would, because usually the Cyber City used to get 200,000 people on a daily basis.
Wow, okay.
And the Cyber Hub footfall was 30 lakhs. So but we have actually pivoted very well. And I'm really proud of the fact that in spite of the office goers not coming back, we managed to pull in the phase 5 consumers due to sheer trust factor. We just went on to the fact that, we would give the best protocols that the city has seen, and that worked well. Also, what worked well is we had pivoted quite a few brands into retail, as you know. Uniqlo had come in, Decathlon had come in. So people preferred the high street shopping along with the dining street. That combination worked well. Well, my theory of what has happened, if I can be a little bit, upfront about it, is also because I feel consumers let their guard down too quickly. Not in our properties, but I've noticed in high streets, there were no norms that were followed. And I mean, no norms were followed. I've personally been to spaces and I've run out of that place because there are 400 people jammed in bars with zero social distancing and no mask. So we have brought it upon ourselves. And yes, Priyank, that's true that, no other country did it, because other countries, even the youngsters, were behaving with certain amount of responsibility. Somewhere we as Indians did really let go of our guards, and anyone and their grandfather and their grandson were found in Goa for the longest time. So the whole thing is that we thought that life is a party. We have to party and party now.
Right.
Unfortunately, the second wave is really to do with that, which is why the youngsters are getting COVID more now, as you know.
Right.
So coming back to DLF, I mean, that's a public statement. I just have to put it out there that I think we as Indians
very good, very good. You did it
ourselves very well, and unfortunate. But now that it has happened, I do believe that hopefully the vaccine drive should go accelerate, and the partial lockdowns will only stay for a month, is the sense that I get from the authorities. So by 15th May, hopefully this guideline should peter down as the spike in cases will come down. Because today, please understand, Sourish, the state governments are beleaguered for funds. They also need the money. They need the excise fee. They need the money. They need GST. Otherwise, they can't function. Even they are facing huge financial issues. So my belief is by 15th May, they would also try to put this into some order. And yes, in the interim, dinner is going to be impacted across the properties. That is the truth. Dinner will be impacted. And but hopefully we should come back, and it should be a shorter transient phase that we are seeing.
Right. Yeah. So, AD, I don't know, when lockdown was announced in Maharashtra, you said that you're shutting down your establishments there. Does that still hold?
Sorry, before we go there, let me just let me just address something that Pushpa raised, which actually I don't agree with at all. And I was a bit surprised to hear her say that. Most of us in the restaurant industry, you see, because of rules, regulations, etc., because of our own social consciousness, because of our own desperate efforts to make sure this doesn't happen again, I'd say our industry has been one of the most careful, well-regulated, by and large industries with respect to social distancing and masks. And I do not, like Sushma, I do agree with Pushpa that there has been a lot of carelessness and casualness amongst, the population, which is why it's flared up. That's a big part of it. But I think I've seen, in Bombay, they reopened the trains, and within a few days, the spikes happened. And the trains were jammed, the stations were jammed. We're seeing the same thing with religious rallies, election rallies, etc., etc. So I think that this is such a total misconception, which perhaps is what, I'm not sure if that's what Pushpa was trying to say, but if so, I vehemently disagree.
And let me intervene in that, Eddie. I don't mean restaurant operators, but I do mean operators who are bar operators operating in high streets, who are purely bar operators. They did let their guards down because because the public let their guards down. Issue is not the operators. Issue is much more to do with the public letting their guards down. That's the point I was making. As Indians, we let our guards down. Be it, so that is the point I was making, not restaurateurs per se. I was talking about the public.
Yes. Okay. I think it's very important for us to put that on the table that, frankly, we are all very shocked that there's been these sort of clampdowns on this industry, because the spread of this is happening at so many levels because of carelessness, casualness, fatigue, and then mass gatherings. Everybody was hoping, it's been such a tough time for the economy as a whole, every industry. So we were all tired of it. We were all trying to move on. It seemed to be moving on. And unfortunately, I'd say as a country and as much of the world as well, number one, they let their guard down. And that's what's contributed to round two. Secondly, and I think that's what's even more worrying for me personally, is that it seems that this virus itself is mutating, and therefore there is fresh strains, vaccinations, past COVID cases, all maybe built up immunity. None of that seems to be really helping that much. And that's what's sort of that's what's leading to this spread now. I hope what Anurag said about 4 to 8 weeks is correct. It's very possible with this new strain, we could be in for another few months. And even more worrying is it possible that there could be a third strain coming in a while and a fourth strain? Maybe. Is it possible that the vaccinations may not be able to help through new mutations? Maybe. So it's actually a very worrying scenario for the economy, for all of us, definitely for the restaurant industry and all the people who depend on us for their livelihoods. It's a very worrying time. The only sort of ray of light for those of us on this chat or in the industry who are national is at the moment it seems to be staggered. The spread of the virus is going at different paces across the country. Lockdowns or curfews are happening differently. So we are being supported by different of our outlet for a bit, then another state, then another state, which will hopefully make it a little bit easier for us and our teams, our vendors, our landlords, our investors to keep going through the tough time that we see ahead of us.
Right. So, actually, there are 2 points like which struck me. I've been watching a lot of TV last some days. One is that yesterday Gordon Brown, the former UK Prime Minister, was talking to Christian Amanpour, and he said very interesting things. He says unless 80% of a nation is vaccinated, at least, it can't. No one can say that he or she is safe. And in our country, just 1% of the nation has been vaccinated, And and the people who have got both the vaccinations are, even their number is even less. So, we have a long way to go. So that's one big challenge we have, The other challenge is, we really, and I think we still are not taking any precautions, and that is quite evident from the election rallies, and it's quite evident from the Kumbh Mela, which is happening in Haridwar. People just don't seem to care even now. Rajan, that brings me to a question, because you operated in different cities. You're also in some small towns like Ludhiana, and a town like Chandigarh, which is fairly aware and fairly progressive, though it's technically a small town. What is the kind of response you're seeing there? In Punjab, I believe they've been pretty strict about night curfew, and there are other restrictions in place.
So, Sourish, in Ludhiana and in Jalandhar, the night curfew was always there. They did not lift it. But in Chandigarh, till last week, we were operational for all the permissible operating hours. The business was coming back, in the small cities more than what we experienced business coming back in a city like Delhi or in Gurgaon. But yes, but the problem with the smaller cities is, unlike in Delhi or in Bombay, 500 cases, 1,000 cases a day doesn't trigger the button. But in the smaller cities, even there are 100 cases in a day, you will see even before the orders come officially, you will see people disappearing. So the last 10 days, we even without the evening curfew in a city like Chandigarh, we have seen the crowds totally vanished. So because people panic more in smaller cities, and so probably and they are much worried than in, I would say, like Priyank said, that people were quite reckless when it came to Delhi, but the scenario isn't the same in smaller cities. So
in fact, one criticism that a lot of people say that, look, are smaller cities letting their guard down? Or, so you feel that smaller cities have been careful? I mean, even the restaurateurs have been careful. You have maintained protocols. Is that your reading?
Sorry, see, there are two parts to it. One is the people visiting the restaurant. I would beg to differ here with Pushpa that that people inside the restaurants or in bars or in clubs, Pushpa, don't I'm sorry for that, were spreading the virus more than others. See, it also depends a lot on the restaurant operators, because it is our rules in our premises. We have to see, how many people we take in, and how we manage them. Like
Exactly.
in my case, the restaurants which were smaller restaurants, I did not open them at all. I only restarted the operations of restaurants which were at least 150 covers plus, so that we can maintain social distancing. We can leave one table to the other. Of course, everybody has got their own challenges. A nightclub, a bar cannot do that, because it is not easy for people to control, to make them seated after they had a couple of drinks, and the music is playing. So it's a very difficult thing to balance. Like, of course, a lot goes on the restaurant operators part to take in only the number of people that they can manage. And once the people are in, you have to control them inside as well.
So now,
So
because we are talking so much about bars and nightclubs, and no one knows the business better than Priyank. So Priyank, is it possible to have social distancing and safety protocols in places? Say you run a fantastic place called Dragonfly in Aerocity. Now there, for instance, are you able to control the crowd? Are you able to ensure social distancing? How do you do it? Or for instance, Lord of the Rings in Connaught Place, which is a more cramped space. How do you do it?
You're on
Priyank,
mute, Priyank.
yeah, please continue. No,
I think you really put me in a spot here. Yeah. So I do. So I kind of agree with Pushpa and disagree with her also, because there are.
No,
I also
that's like what journalists used to say is like the statesman
no, no, no,
editorial.
no. So I'm not going to deny, because I know it personally. I'm not going to name people, but there are a few handful of bar owners or restaurant owners who have who have been a little relaxed about uh, the norms, and we've seen that those places have been raided, they have been challaned, all those things. We keep on reading about a lot of them. The excise, the disaster management committee have been very active. Cases like this have happened in Delhi, Bombay, and it's okay. People are going to certain extents right now to protect their businesses and to protect employment, and I don't even blame them. So there have been certain cases. I have seen, yes, that uh, uh, even if we try to, at best, what a bar owner can do is control the number of people visiting the outlet. So okay, a 50 or a 60% capacity is what I'm filling up my outlet at. I'm not filling it up as much as I used to. But what really happens is, what happens when six friends go together and after they have 3 4 drinks and they're talking into each other's mouth. I can't stop that. I mean, they do after alcohol. That is something on a table, how they're talking, how they're getting close, they're hugging each other after drinks. That is something I've seen personally myself, and that is something, as a restaurant here, I can't even stop. But if you see in comparison to what all is happening, I mean, if you go to a Lajpat
Mela.
Nagar market in Delhi or a Karol Bagh market in Delhi, or forget about election rallies and Kumbh Melas, you go to a bus stand in Delhi, the exposure and the kind of COVID, the kind of closeness there is much more than what you'd have in a bar.
Talk about
So
bus stops.
Suresh,
Yeah, push me.
since
Now that everyone has
my comment has
agreed to disagree with
arisen
you.
certain emotions, I just wanted to tell you a few things. What I want is this, that as Indians, right, and urban Indians who are educated, we had to sort of walk the talk a little bit more. Unfortunately, the educated urban Indian did not walk the talk as much as it should have. They should have, number one. Number two, it's also true that malls have been maligned or sort of cornered at every given point. The first people who are sort of shut down are malls, whereas the issue has been far more acute in non-compliance in the high streets. The malls, I can tell you, I've been talking to all the mall operators. They have increased their COVID expenses, gone out of the way to ensure that only X number of people enter the property. In spite of them, I have shut Mall of India or Promenade at certain 50% level. I've shut it. I said, no, no more people can enter this property. We have been so much more conscious. The point I was trying to make is, as organized retail, we've been more conscious. However, the high street, certain pockets, and I'm not naming people over here, please. I should be foolish, right? If I did that. I'm talking about, generally, there have been a few people who have let their guards down in, like Priyank said, they were in a hurry to sort of recoup the losses. And hence there were certain things that guards that fell down. The second aspect is public as a whole. You saw that when Sarojini Nagar was sort of opened out during the festive season, what happened? Right. The wave comes in. So this wave, the COVID, unfortunately, is such a virus that if you do not pay heed to it, it comes and slaps you. We've seen it in Brazil. We've seen it in Italy. Now we are going to see it in India, and it's happening. I mean, now we can talk about it, but the fact is we are in a situation where there is a mutant virus, which we need to control. So the point I'm making is, we as a community, the restaurant community has done a lot, tremendous amounts. But now, you know, that little bit of patience that we all need, and as mall owners, as we do need that little bit of patience to ensure that the virus passes through in the next month or so, and then we are through. You know, at least things hopefully should be back on track with the vaccination taking control and the deaths coming down. So it's just that. The point is that as people, we've let our guards down, not
I think that,
naming anyone.
No, I think that's a message that should go down to everyone. I hope the politicians are busy fighting elections listen to this before anyone else, you know. Yeah, Priyank, you were very keen on saying something.
Like, you know, it can't be, oh, so-and-so is transgressing, so hence I shall. So that's the spiral that we got ourselves into, unfortunately.
So I feel the real sad part about is here that in Bengal, there has been a 300% jump in the daily COVID cases in the last 2 weeks. In Assam, there has been a 400% jump, and these are reports I read last night. But somehow restaurant industry is being made the scapegoat. So when they're saying that they are trying to do a night curfew, I think the only industry they are hampering is the restaurant industry. The markets are open all day, malls are open all day. They should really work forward to enforce, COVID regulations strictly, but cutting our, timings to operate is something I don't think so is going to help. I mean, it's been a week and in Delhi, and since this lockdown, night lockdown has been imposed, and the night curfew, and the number of cases going are higher. It's not helping anywhere.
So, Anurag, I think we have a very two interesting points have come out, and I think the last point that Priyank made was that the number of cases is just going up, and the more it goes up, the administrations are going to panic, because that's bad news for any administration, and the easiest target is what people think are places where people go to do ayashi, basically restaurants and pubs, so no one thinks twice before imposing a night curfew. Now, do you think the night curfew should be balanced by measures like allowing curbside dining and other such things?
No, I think first of all, this whole narrative that is going around that restaurants are big spreaders is big bullshit. Absolutely. Okay. Let's just call a spade a spade. In Mumbai, restaurants started in October with 50% capacity. October happened, November happened, December, Jan, Feb, no increase in cases. When did the cases start going up? When the public transport was started. So I have a very simple question. If you have a, kind of a wound here, you can't apply a balm here. Your problem is something else, the large public gathering. But restaurants and malls shutting down makes for great optics. That's why it comes out as the first thing to be shut down. What is it achieving? What is it achieving by night curfew? Nothing. Whole day the market is open. People can go anywhere, do anything. And in the night,
thousands of people come in.
Yeah, it's a absolutely rubbish narrative going around. It is just for optics and makes no scientific sense at all.
See, the
Absolutely
first
nothing.
thing, Anurag, they should have done is we are all frontline workers. At the end of the day, the malls, restaurant industries, they should have been vaccinated as frontline, because you've been out there, the mall staff have been out there, irrespective of age. If that had happened, we would have at least had some support. So it's
No, but I
knowledge.
beg to differ. What is happening here? It is not based on any scientific data or any logic. This is based only on optics. Mall band kar do, restaurant band kar do, public ko lagega, we have heard where
kuch ho raha hai.
Kuch ho raha hai. Otherwise, what is the logic in Bombay? Your local trains are continuing to run. Your buses continue to run. Film shoots are happening. IPL matches are happening. Construction activities are happening. Your cabs are running with half the capacity. Your autos are running with capacities. How are they any better than a restaurant which is working in a very closed or very controlled environment, or a mall for that matter?
Or a mall.
It is absolutely. You look at an airline, all 6 seats of a row is taken.
Yeah.
That is safe. But a restaurant working 50% is unsafe. This is nothing but optics. It has got nothing to do with COVID. It is to do with the ineptness of the administration.
And
because they
they're
can't
taking
handle it, they have to find
knee-jerk reactions.
Absolutely.
The knee-jerk reactions completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which again, now this night curfew has become like a national, I would say national illness. Everywhere there is night curfew today. In Delhi, for instance, around Delhi, everywhere we have night curfew. I'm sure that's true of Bombay. Pune, of course, is in
night
the state of
curfew
lockdown.
is like a virus, chief. If it starts in one state, it goes to every state.
Because it's the easiest thing to do.
It travels faster than the virus.
Yeah.
Because every administration, most administration in every state is equally inept. So they lap up these things, which comes as a savior to their reputations.
I think, Sourish, sorry, just to add to everything that's being said, is that how is this actually helping? Like Anurag said, the numbers have not gone down. Like Priyank said, I mean, the restaurants have been closed for a while now, at least in Bombay. The numbers are not going down. So the point is, like, how is this actually helping, and how is this a long-term solution? I mean, like AD said right in the beginning, what if there's a third mutant? What if there's a fourth? And at some point, the narrative has to change from being one of fear-mongering to one of how to be more responsible and let sort of business continue, let lives continue to, let people continue to earn their livelihood. Because this is not, I mean, we hope and wish and pray that this is something that's going to, end in 4 to 6 weeks, and we don't know that. And, honestly, this could go on for years, right? As this mutates. So instead of kind of putting the fear into people, I think that there has to be a more responsible and positive message going out, and people have to learn to coexist with this in the best way possible. It's not about, like you said, you're looking at restaurants and bars, etc., and malls as the bad guy, but it's such a superficial outlook, because beyond that, the ripple effect on so many people, and we're not just talking about, our team members, we're talking about vendors, and, I mean, the ripple effect is just so extensive that this is a very myopic way of looking at, at our industry. And, that's what's really worrying, is that there's no long-term practical view being taken on addressing the situation.
Gauri, I'll come back to that. In fact, I'll start a round. So think about it. If you were wearing an administrator's hat, what would you do? I'll come back to you, Gauri. I'll ask one question to Anurag, and then I'll start the solutions round of this discussion. So Anurag, one question, because I'm very interested to know, how many do you have any data of how many restaurants have shut down, or how many people have lost their jobs, or they've just left their jobs and gone to their home villages?
No, in the second round, no, it's too early to have any concrete data.
I'm talking the first round.
First round, about 25 to 30% of the restaurants shut down, and about 3 million people lost their jobs.
3 million people.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'm not even talking of the ancillary industries.
Right, right. Okay. And, one more question, because again, out of curiosity, Rajan, you run a successful delivery outlet, now tell me, because you heard Gauri, you heard Anurag, has the, of course, you've got 14 restaurants to back you up in case of any problem. But, how's your delivery business doing? Is it going up during this phase? Is it, plateauing? What has been the response?
Sourish, so the delivery business has been helping us. It is a self-sustaining model for us because we have not added any new costs and expenses on us.
Right.
What we did was we started our delivery kitchens from our existing outlets.
Right.
So we were very sure that we have to generate ROIs without taking any further fresh capital burden on our shoulders. So whether the sales have been less or more, it doesn't affect us because our fixed expenses are already there. Having said that, good quality of packaging, good quality of food, and good channel partners to deliver your food, safely within time to the customers have actually helped us. We have started our delivery services only in Gurgaon. Reason being that we see a lot of people are working from home in Gurgaon, right? And somehow we feel that Gurgaon is having more nuclear families. Because of that, people don't want to cook food every day in their houses, and they at least want to outsource at least one meal out. Earlier they used to go out, coming back from their offices to take a quick stop at a bar, have a beer, have a pizza, come home, right? So we thought
that hasn't been affected by the current fear. I mean, in Delhi NCR, I'm seeing a wave of fear about COVID today. So your delivery business has not been affected by the night curfew or the fear of COVID?
Not much. We started a parallel brand called Kung Fu Mama.
Right.
We are churning out of food from our AM, PM outlets.
Right.
So, because we already had a pan-Asian setup in these outlets.
Right.
So
right.
It hasn't affected much. The delivery business is sustaining for us. The problem, I would like to just put one point across.
Yeah, please.
That the economic toll on the restaurant industry has not been evenly distributed. When I say that, a fine dine restaurant has taken a much bigger toll and hammering comparing to a delivery brand, a delivery kitchen, or let's say places like Pizza Hut, Domino's, all these QSRs, delivery brands, which were always stronger in their off-premise sales, are in fact doing better. So it's a two-edged sword for the restaurant industry. First, that our size is not as significant as the airline industry or a manufacturing industry that will be looked, at with so much care by the government, by the agencies, right? And second thing is that there is an internal, I would not say divide, but a segregation as well. Because of COVID, some of us are doing phenomenally well, as I just gave you the example of QSRs, right? Yeah. There are many burger brands which have created a brand out of themselves in the last 8 to 10 months. Some great pizzerias which are delivering some great pizzas to you at home, and 8 months ago you did not even know about them.
And look at the biryani brands. The biryani brands have just boomed.
Within 8 months, they are attracting funding. They are opening more outlets. They are expanding their footprint, opening into new avenues. So it's a divide. It's a two-edged sword, as I said, externally as well and internally as well for us. Like, the government doesn't look at us as that significant an industry that should be protected and taken care of. And internally also, some of us are very happy. Like, so I see this, the second round, as a big hit overall for the ones who are affected in this industry. Now I am squeezing it down within the entire economy. Restaurant is just one part of it. Within the restaurant, there is just one part which have been badly affected. So we are just cornered from all aspects. So
Anurag, your thoughts on this, and one, suddenly, it reminded me the unorganized sector, the dhabas and all. we don't even know about them, whether they've been affected, not affected, what is happening. What is your reading of it?
See, anybody who is compliant is suffering the most today. As simple as that. People who are compliant, who take licenses, are the ones people come to. Anybody who is operating on the sly is anyway operating on the sly.
Right.
So, so that's a very clear-cut thing. I can tell you of places in Bombay which are still doing business, and administration knows about it, because these things don't happen without support.
So coming to solutions, what are the solutions? Anurag, you shoot first.
To me, the solutions are very simple. I mean, I've done whatever little reading I've done. If this strain is going up, you have to test more, identify, isolate, cure, and on the parallel continue vaccinating. And at the same time, while as far as commerce is concerned, you set the benchmark, set the COVID protocols, and allow them to function within those restrictions. And especially the businesses which are running in controlled environment are far better to allow. And that's the only way to go. This shutdown, lockdown, it's not helping anybody, neither lives nor livelihoods. We need to save both.
I'd like to add to that, Sourish.
AD, please.
Sourish, so as somebody made a point earlier, I think Gauri made it, the bottom line is what, Sourish? There's been so much uncertainty. Even now, there's a lot we have to learn about this pandemic. But it's been fairly clear since the start, wearing masks and social distancing can really help save. Now, what is being done about it, that would be number one solution. Look at Delhi, for example. In Delhi, if you're in a car and you don't have a mask on, it's a 2,000 rupee fine.
Right.
So therefore, say, most of us, 2,000 rupees is a significant number.
Right. Yeah.
So mostly everybody in their transport on the roads is wearing masks.
Right.
Okay? In Bombay, they don't even have that. And if you're caught without a mask, randomly okay, it's a 200 rupee fine.
Right.
So there's no concern in people's minds to wear that mask when they're out of their homes. Now, I'll give you some examples. Drunk driving.
Right.
Drunk driving has been a worry forever.
Right.
In Bombay, a couple of years back, they solved it like that. How? They would check you, and if you were over the limit of 2 drinks, you had to spend the night in lockup.
Right.
Whoever you were, and you could not bribe your way out of it, nothing. You couldn't then say, oh, my driver, I sent him. I'm telling you, Sourish, immediately drunken driving cases crashed. It was that simple. So the government knows what needs to be done.
Yeah.
If they will only focus on that and implement the basics, that itself will be a great solution to bring the number of cases and spread down.
Fantastic.
Instead, they're doing things like night curfew, etc., or lockdowns, which are affecting the economy very badly, putting so many people out of jobs, which is much more pressure on the governments themselves and on all of us.
3 million people out of jobs.
Yeah. So number one solution, what needs to be done, do it.
Yeah. So Pushpa, your thoughts, because again, as you said, malls always come under attack, you're seen as this closed spaces which are breeding all sorts of illnesses, So what's the solution,
So I think, first of all, the government officials, I completely agree, go for optics. They go for things that it's easier for them to say they have taken action. How has Singapore behaved? Singapore has had everything open, but they were very strict. And I agree with AD over there. They have been very strict for people who are non-compliant. The issue that I think as a solution, I think in Delhi and Gurgaon can be 2 pockets that they should take up as a model pocket and exhibit strictness for non-compliance, be it high streets or malls. There have been times when authorities have come into the properties of malls and said, we will do a mask check. We have encouraged it. because, it is important to do that so that the
Right.
message goes out. And so I believe that the solution is create Gurgaon and Delhi as a pocket, lift the
Right.
lockdown, but be very strict about,
Compliance.
non-compliance,
Yeah.
and see the cases coming down. But be more strict in high streets. Again, I reiterate that because
Absolutely.
I've seen it, that's the problem. That's the bane of the issue. And then look, even public transport, for God's sake,
Right.
it can function with 50% occupancy if
Right.
it is a compliant 50% occupancy.
Right.
If
Yes.
I think if the model is put into place and we exhibit that the cases have come down, then we have a model in place and we can replicate it very quickly in a complex environment like Mumbai. Maybe one could do that in just South Mumbai first, then
Right.
move on to other pockets of Mumbai, but try it in that manner, because I understand from an administration point of view, they have too much to handle. And when they
Right.
see images of Leelavati hospitals corridors getting filled, they get all, completely cornered, and hence they think lockdown is the only solution.
That's
And
right.
so if the authorities have that strength to be able to create these pockets and exhibit, then we are here in the long run. And I agree with Gauri, it could be the second or the third or the fourth, maybe this is here to stay till 22, 23. So
That's
we
right.
have to learn to live with it.
People are talking about 23 now,
Yes.
even 22, So Gauri, we have heard, but do you think we have the will to implement? I mean, and Priyank, I'll ask this question to you also. I mean, are we as a society ready for what we are asking for is basically self-regulation, self-compliance. Is that going to ever happen?
No, I think, Sourish, it's a couple of things. Of course, like being responsible and, taking that sort of self-vigilance on is necessary. And that was from day one. So it's nothing new today. It's even more important today when we've now had 1 year of it and we understand the ramifications of not doing it. But it doesn't take away the authorities' responsibility to also do the vigilance, right? Which is what AD was referring to, which is that, you put these, you penalize people for flouting those norms, you put those norms in place and take action against those who don't. Why is it any different from, like he said, drunk driving or, any other kind of non-compliance with the law? So firstly, create a law, and sort of then supervise it, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think giving people the tools to improve the situation. So right now there's a huge issue with vaccines and now even testing kits in some states, right? So it's almost like you're tying both your hands at the back. You're saying you can't operate. Neither are we going to give you anything to improve the situation. But go and do a headstand or a handstand or whatever and survive, right? So it's like, how do you do that? How do you actually, how do you work towards making this better? Because sort of keeping people at home is not solving the problem, because at some point they're going to get out. At some point things have to be, opened up again, and then what? So I think that the whole approach to this has to change, and that's the thing where there's just so much frustration coming out of the way this is being tackled.
So Rajan, I'll come to you, and then Priyank, you'll have the last word. And so you have to sum up the entire discussion. So Priyank's a lot of thinking on your part, while Rajan, I'll ask a very specific question. Is there something big cities can learn from towns like Chandigarh? I mean, I'm asking this because of your exposure. I mean, of course, all of you have businesses in Chandigarh. I mean, at least Priyank has a business, has outlets there,
No,
so is
not
there,
yet.
no, you don't, okay. So
Just
is there,
focus.
I mean, is there something to be learned from Chandigarh?
Okay, so like Gauri just now, I would just like to take that example forward. I would say that there is no law in this country which cannot be enforced if the administration wants it to be enforced, right? This is where I want to connect the Chandigarh part. In Chandigarh, the authorities do not take any leniency easy. If they say that you have to maintain social distancing, you have to maintain it. If they say there is no drunk driving, there is no drunk driving. They know how to make people adhere to the rules, to the laws. And this is what this is. I would say not the public of Delhi, not the people of Delhi or Mumbai. The government of Delhi and Mumbai or other cities should be taking this learning from the government, from the administration of Chandigarh. When when Chandigarh said no hookahs, there were no hookahs. They just disappeared. Nobody came with a lut in your hand in your outlet and said ki kaun pi raha hai hookah. Nobody came. When they said no more hookah, they just vanished, disappeared. When they said that no outdoor seating, it just disappeared. People do it themselves. When they say there is no drunk driving, you cannot be driving your car after even a single pint of beer. People go with their drivers. People take Ola Ubers. People don't even go. People started going to do their night outs in Zirakpur, which is a town adjacent to Chandigarh. But they will not go and drink. Chandigarh people will not go and drink in Chandigarh. So it's a learning, it's a takeaway for the government. It's not a takeaway for the people. See, people are the same. We are the people. I have an outlet in Delhi. I have an outlet in Chandigarh, right? If both the cities put the same rules, I would first go and implement it in Chandigarh. Let me tell you, and I'm not saying I will not do it in Delhi, but my first phone call will go to my manager in Chandigarh that make sure that this doesn't happen. Because they will just come, shut your shutter, seal it, go home. So this is a learning for the government, not more than learning for the people. Because if the government wants, we have no choice but to follow it. If the government wants.
Right. So Priyank, I think everyone has made one thing very clear, that the administration cannot just engage in optics. It has to take the business quite seriously, the business of compliance quite seriously. So Priyank, any thoughts before we
I think
go back home?
The norms need to be relaxed, but harshly enforced. Those relaxed, like the lockdown, the night curfew needs to be relaxed. But whatever norms are set by the government, they need to be harshly enforced. Anybody who's flouting those laws should be penalized, should be fined. It's a double-edged sword, because sometimes bureaucrats also blackmail small businesses to do that. But when I'm talking anybody, I'm talking from high street to mall to restaurants to any other kind of business to any other thing. But those kind of implementations should not be at a state level. They should come from the MHA, which is the Ministry of Home Affairs, which should be valid for the whole country. But the problem here is then the MHA needs to, or the government needs to lead by example. I mean, MHA is held, it's governed by the Home Minister of the country, and we've all seen the number of rallies he's having. So you need to lead by example first, being in the government, and then take these harsh steps and relax the norms, and things will get fine. Why not?
Yes, I think so. For me, the takeaways, I see two big takeaways. One is that compliance and implementation of the compliance, and second, of course, is vaccination. We have to get very serious about vaccination, and vaccinate as many people as possible. And this whole talk about shortage of vaccinations and all, it can only dampen the environment.
We did start a drive to, so because I recovered from COVID and the vaccine really helped me. So we did start a drive that anybody who has the vaccination and shows the certificate does get a 15% discount at all our restaurants. So it's a drive, and if all businesses do this, if the government starts, promoting this, and we can contribute, let's encourage people to you can get COVID after a vaccination. I'm a personal case who's I'm personally witness to that. But it does relax the symptoms, and everybody should get vaccinated as and when they can.
So Anurag, I feel you fed 6 million people. You and your team, fed 6 million people at the height of the lockdown. In fact, I'm sure the number must be bigger than 6 million. Anurag, you have to unmute yourself. Please.
Sorry. I said it was 6.7 million. Sorry.
Okay, 6.7 million. I think now you have to aim for 7 million vaccinations. I think that alone.
No, I think you are very right. Vaccination has to be deregulated a bit. It cannot be a population-based allocation. It has to be caseload wise. If a state like, say, Odisha has lesser number of cases and Maharashtra has truckloads of cases, then you need to look at the allocation of vaccination. Vaccination, as Priyank rightly said, doesn't prevent the occurrence of COVID, but it is the first step in preventing it.
That's right. And a lot of open areas in our country are just going waste. Look at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Delhi. It's like the biggest white elephant we have, and we pass through it almost every day. That can become a massive COVID center. We need to convert, and I'm sure the National Restaurant Association of India can ask its members that wherever you have space, just let people do before a Sunday brunch, a Sunday jab, something.
No, I mean, lots of things can be done, but the problem is, if our problem is in the knees, then let's address the problem of the knees. Talking about arms will not help.
That's
problem
right.
is elsewhere, but we are trying to find a different solution.
Thank you. Thank
It
you
is
so much.
time that the government starts taking us as partners and not pariahs. Very
That's right.
simple.
Fantastic. Great. Pushpa had to go for a meeting, so she had to, that's why exit suddenly, in case you're wondering what happened to her. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for the time you've given. And a lot of ideas have come out. This recording will go on air. I mean, it'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. We will be sharing the links with all of you, so you'll know exactly when it's on air. And then I suggest, please, let's spread the message. I think a lot of new ideas and new thoughts have emerged from this discussion. Let's spread the word and let's get some people to act, if not all. Thank you very much and hope to see you soon.